Okay, welcome everyone. I'm glad to see you got here on a lazy summer day. And as I said, I believe that the main topic of this meeting is very important. We're going to get to that in like 2 minutes. I want to start with a quote from my newest favorite book, How to Raise Your Own Salary. Anybody know who the author is? Very interesting. Okay, so the author is Napoleon Hill, the person who wrote Think and Grow Rich. And most people think that this book, How to Raise Your Own Salary, is better than Think and Grow Rich. Isn't that interesting? Because what it is a transcript of his initial interview with Andrew Carnegie. Really? Going through what Andrew Carnegie thinks is the way to success. Very, very interesting. Now, obviously, a lot of what is in Think and Grow Rich is in this book. But believe it or not, even though Think and Grow Rich came years later, I think this book has more detail. So if you like Think and Grow Rich, I recommend that you think about picking up this book. I think I got it. Yeah, I got it on Kindle for $4, and I paid another $2 to get it on Audible. I've been listening to it in the car, and if you like inspirational books, especially when you're driving, this is a good one. So I want to start the meeting with just one quote from the book that will resonate very much with people who remember Think and Grow Rich. He says, men who know exactly what they want of life and are determined to get it do not stop with wishing. They intensify their wishes into a burning desire and back that desire with continuous effort based on a sound plan. To me, that's a recipe for success. Know your why, turn your wish into a burning desire, and then follow up with action with a sound plan. Also sounds a little like Tony Robbins, doesn't it? Obviously, Napoleon Hill is the great grandfather of all the famous speakers and motivators that came after him. The language in the book obviously is a little stilted. It's over 100 years old, but I recommend it strongly if you want a boost, and it's a really good boost. Okay, let's get on to inventory. So hot off the presses, about 3 minutes ago, I pushed the button and Daniel Murphy's new listing at 1779 Prospect Avenue in East Meadow is live. Dan, you want to tell us about your listing?
Sure. It's a 3-bed, 1-bath ranch. It's approximately 1,022 square feet. Got hardwood floors throughout, finished basement. The utilities are upgraded. The basement is the recent area to be finished, 2019, carpeted. It's half finished actually. The washer and dryer is down there. It has a detached 1-car garage, and I think it's priced, from what I'm told, it's priced pretty good at $549. The taxes are $10,395, and the star, those are the true taxes, and the star is $1,198.
That's fantastic. $9,200 in taxes in Nassau County.
Yeah,
it's a steal. Okay, have fun this weekend with it.
Thank you. Oh yeah, we'll have an open house Sunday, 12 to 3.
Okay, I'd whisper that if I was you. Make sure your mortgage guy is there to help you and direct traffic.
Make sure you get good night's sleep.
Everybody hear Michael yelling in the background? I can't put him on mute.
Oh, no.
Nobody can.
He sounds muted. I can't, I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, okay. So, Theodore Drive has 2 available listings unless they're sold already overnight. Angel, why don't you unmute yourself and tell us about both of them?
Well, there are 2 relists. Both had the problem with the surrogate court being backed up due to COVID. So they're 2-bedroom, 2-bath ranches with garages in an over 55 community. If anybody has a seller that's looking to downsize, this is the perfect little community. Give me a call.
Excellent.
What
Okay,
town is
will they be available on Monday?
Probably not.
Yeah.
It's literally like I threw bait in the ocean and I've got like sharks just circling. I got a ton of showings.
Yeah.
Luckily, they're vacant with a lockbox. I got my inbox is filled with notifications of showings.
Excellent. Yep.
And fun begins.
Ride the wave. It's fine. Okay, before we get to a couple of announcements, in terms of inventory, I want everybody to type in the chat box, has the market changed in the last couple of weeks? Don't be shy. Yes, no, maybe, how it's changed. You think so? Yeah, well, real estate is always local. Okay, I think there is a mixed opinion about it. And I guess it's what part of the elephant you're looking at. But I would say that there's 2 things going on in this market. Number one, no matter that interest rates are so low, affordability is starting to become an issue for some buyers. And frustration is definitely there for buyers who have been in the market, since the spring. The second thing is, it's not the spring, and get July into August tends to be a little slower than May and June, and that's okay. We are still at terrible numbers for inventory. We had 3 listings in 2 weeks. That's not a good thing, but it's not, it's indicative of the way the rest of the MLS is going. Their inventory is just not flowing. And as I said last meeting, traditionally June, July is the peak in inventory anyway. So as we look down to November and December, there's really almost no way that we can have more inventory unless something happens to completely stop the buyers. And the way interest rates are going, I don't think that's going to be a case. So listings are still good, but maybe Daniel won't have 50 people online on Sunday. Maybe he'll have only 20. Maybe he'll only get, 6 offers instead of 10 offers. Doesn't really matter to a seller. Makes it a little bit easier for a buyer that's well qualified, but we will have to track it. And obviously our next meeting will be in August. and we will be able to look at the market stats and the absorption rates to get real data on what's going on in the market. And obviously, we will track it month by month and follow how things go. Any questions about the market or the inventory? Does anybody else have any inventory coming out in the next week that we don't know about? Okay, we got a mid-August listing. Anybody for another July listing?
Yeah, I have another Theodore coming.
Nice, excellent,
Yeah, we
excellent.
just want to keep that flowing.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you know, the thing is, as activity picks up in a particular development, it gets people who are thinking about selling to up their game and think about maybe this is the time. All my neighbors are selling now. Maybe I should be selling. So I would say that you have very good chance for finishing up the year on Theodore pretty well. It's been a pretty good year on Theodore Drive already, right, Angel?
Oh, yes, it's steady.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so announcements. Our picnic barbecue is August 11th. You've gotten several invitations. You will get another one next week if you have not responded. We'd love everybody who is going to be around that week to stop by and say hello and have a drink and have a hamburger or whatever. We're at Bethpage Park. We're at the Eagle Pavilion in the picnic area right past the Polo Grounds. And there is a $10 parking fee, so pack up your car and share the fee. Obviously, if you have an Empire Pass, parking is free. Empire Pass is a great thing if you use the state parks, which includes the state beaches. I would heartily recommend applying for one of those. Second thing is, even though the normal replacement open house signs have not come in, I have ordered and received 12 stick in the ground open house signs with the new logo and everything. And they're available in the office from Monday to Friday to sign out and sign in. So you have to come in when Linda or I are here. You pick them up, you sign them out. If they're open house signs, we expect them to be back by Tuesday after you use them. The only way we're going to be able to survive with just 12 open house signs is for having people take them out and bring them back. I'm sorry for the inconvenience. I know if you had signs, you're not used to it, but the replacement signs are on the way. I'm just not holding my breath. And that's the way it goes. So that's number one. Number two is we bought some branded pending sale signs, a white lettering on blue. They're also in the office willing, you can sign them out. Linda has a sign-in sheet. You cannot get them if one of us is not here. If there's some issue with you having to have an open house sign, and for some reason you can't make Monday to Friday, you let me know and we'll work something out. But they're in a locked closet because my experience in 15 years of managing is they just disappear. And can't have that when these are the only 12 branded signs we have for the whole office. So luckily the inventory is relatively low. We're not likely to have more than 2 or 3 open houses on a weekend. So with 12 signs, we should definitely be able to support 4 or 5 open houses. God forbid we ever have 4 or 5 in a weekend. That would be amazing. So they're here. There is a procedure for signing them out and signing back in. If you sign them out and do not bring them back, you will be charged $20 for the open house sign or $10 for the pending rider. It's very important that you do not leave the pending rider on the sign at closing. The sign company takes them and they disappear. I called the sign company and I said, you know, you should have quite a few of our pending riders. No, we don't have any. How is that absolutely possible? We don't have any in the office, and tens of under contract riders went out. Now, luckily, they're the branded from Century 21 with the gold and black, so we weren't going to use them anyway. But if it's a sale pending and you want it on your listing as a rider, you can have it. We have 10 of them. I'd be happy to get more if it turns out we need them. But you're going to sign them out. And if for some reason you don't pick them up and they get lost, that'll be $10. There's no other way around it. I will try to remind you before closing to pick it up. I recommend you just don't leave it till the last day, or you take it off at the walkthrough. That's a pretty good practice. And then you bring it back and sign it back in and you're all good. Or maybe you're going to put it on your next under contract. Whatever way that works, we want to have, what you need available. We just need a little cooperation in the transition for what's going on. Okay, any questions about those two things? Yes, Michael. 10.
Hey, how are you? Can you open the garage door?
They're going to be
Yeah,
replaced.
it's more like a split, right?
No, this is a colonial.
It's a colonial? Okay.
I got 4 bedrooms upstairs. I got a I know, like people, this is like kind of one of a kind.
Yeah, okay, just, you can shut that door.
Okay. Found the person who didn't mute themselves. Okay, I'm sorry. Michael asked if the open house signs that you have now, the personalized with 10 signs, are they being replaced? And the answer is absolutely yes. They were ordered over a month ago, but they are not even scheduled for printing yet. That's the problem of letting one printing company do this massive job with 1,400 agents and 24 offices. No, you're getting the placards. They're going to be switched out. So when we did the rebranding on Century 21, we switched them out.
Okay.
We're going to switch them out again. And I'd be happy, when they come in, just bring your 10 signs in and I will switch them out for you. So they are on order, but luckily we are at the point where inventory is starting to decline. So by the time next spring comes, we will have them. And the plan was always to get those replacement signs and then figure out what else you needed. So if you are newer to the company and don't have your own and you wanted to buy some, we were going to do that. What will probably happen is that I will be able to sell you the ones, if you want, the stick in the ground ones that I ordered after the replacements come in, and then I'll order more for the office. But at this point, we're stuck with the 12 signs, and that's what we need to do for now. Listen, go out and get 5 listings. I'll go get another 10 signs. Be very happy to do that. Yeah, exactly. Okay, any questions? You can put them in the chat. You can raise your hand. You can unmute yourself. All good. Scott asked how much of the Theodores. They're $339, but they're probably going to go higher. Most of those are selling between $330 and $350 now. And I don't see any different considering the inundation of requests that Angel's already gotten. We are definitely going over asking for both of those. And the comps support 350. So that's the ballpark you should be thinking about. Okay, I want to spend most of the meeting on giving you some insight into this new book called Digital Body Language. It's by Eric Wadwan. And I compare it to a book titled Emotional Intelligence. I hope that all of you have read Emotional Intelligence. It was a seminal book. It was about how we look at the world and how we react to it. And as salespeople, it is impossible not to keep ourselves on top of these seminal books. It is very, very important that we work on ourselves as working on our business. That's why How to Give Yourself a Raise is important. You know, Think and Grow Rich, the Tony Robbins stuff. It's all connected. And this book is all about how do we replace the body language that we had in person-to-person communication on the digital platform. When we talk to somebody in person, 7% of what is going on is what they say. Their tone, their body language is all important in us interpreting both the mood and intent and the meaning of what somebody says. How do we do that in an email or a text? And what are the good guidelines for communicating digitally, whether it's text or email or on a Zoom call? Obviously, the last year and a half has changed the way we communicate. Nobody knew what Zoom was 2 years ago. We've had to manage to do things virtually, and some of those things we continue to do virtually. We take advantage of the virtual tools, even in the person-to-person world. And I believe that this is a trend that's just accelerating. And it is very important to understand what's behind how we communicate digitally. So even though the book was written for a more corporate kind of audience, us as salespeople, I think it's very important. How does it apply to us? When we do inter-office communication, it's something that I'll be watching on my texts and emails. But when you ask me or Linda or one of the brokers for something, that obviously your digital body language is important. When you communicate with your clients by text or email or Zoom, your digital body language is very important. And when you connect with your vendors, when you connect with lawyers or mortgage people or home inspectors, our digital language is very important. So I'm going to give you a little example to start. You text somebody, can we meet? Is Wednesday or Thursday good? And what do they respond back? Yes. What the hell does that mean? Right? It happens all the time. You know, and part of it is we have not thought clearly enough about how we're communicating and how to bring clarity to our communication. So the book is based on 4 principles. They call them 4 laws of digital communication. And I'm going to go over them briefly. Obviously, this is a book you read in 4 or 5 hours. We're taking a half hour to give you some idea. I'd be happy to do a more extended class if anybody's interested. I think it would be more useful after you read the book than before. But hopefully this will get 1 or 2 of you to think about getting this book and going through it. So the first law is value visibly. Value visibly means we're always sensitive to other people's needs and schedules. Valuing visibly means we understand that reading emails in our inbox with care and attention is the new art of listening. Reread what you've written. Make sure your message is free of typos and confusing language. Simultaneously check for clarity and make sure your recipient knows what you expect in response. Valuing visibly means showing respect. Respect means others feel appropriately valued, included, and acknowledged. Respect means honoring other people's time and scheduling and not canceling meetings at the last second or delaying your response to an email so long that people have to chase you down. I love that one. Respect means not using the mute button during a conference call to attend to 5 other things as someone is talking. Respect means writing clear subject lines in meeting invitations that explain exactly why you are requesting another person's time. And at a minimum, respect is spelling the other person's name right. We are in such a hurry. I don't know to where, but I think that's part of the issue. We think this communication is quicker than person to person, and we tend to be careless. Law 2 is communicate carefully. Communicate carefully involves making continuous effort to minimize the risk of misunderstanding or misinterpretation by being as clear as possible in your words and digital body language. We communicate carefully when we establish unambiguous expectation and norms about which channels we use, what we include in our messages, and who we include in the recipient list. We communicate carefully when we know why each person copied on the message is accountable and who is responsible for the next steps. Communicating carefully allows for consistent understanding of each person's requirements and needs. Finally, communicating carefully leads to alignment. The biggest impediment to alignment is lack of clarity. Communicating carefully restores that alignment through digital body language signals and cues. From realizing that a brief message is not always a clear one, to eliminate tone-deaf language, to everything in between. Don't rely too much on shorthand or send messages that are too general. If you want to be brief, agree and adopt on a team-wide set of acronyms. The third law is collaborate confidently. Collaborate confidently is about freedom to take the conscious risks while trusting that others will support your decisions. Collaborating confidently means managing the fear, uncertainty, and worry that define modern workplaces. Assume the best intentions when you read digital communications. Remember, you are missing body language and tone clues from others, which can cause us to misinterpret directness or speed as rudeness. Sometimes speed is not a good part of our communication, and it really depends on the person, the medium, and the circumstances of that communication. The fourth law is trust totally, and that only comes when 1, 2, and 3 are all put together. So you can trust totally when people value visibly, communicate carefully, and collaborate confidently. So here's some examples of digital body language. When you want to communicate trust, traditional body language is keep your palms open, uncross your arms and legs, smile and nod. In digital body language, you use language that is direct with clear subject lines and emails with a friendly gesture. Text me if you need anything. Hope this helps. Never BCC anyone without a warning, and mirror the sender's use of emojis or other informal punctuation. When we meet someone person to person, you've been trained to mirror them. If they talk slowly, you talk slowly. If they speak more quickly, you speak more quickly. If they cross their legs, you cross their legs. That kind of mirroring helps build trust. It's the same thing with digital communication. Presuming that that person that you're communicating with is communicating properly, then you mirror the tone of their communications. If they tend to be a little informal, you can be a little bit informal. If they tend to be formal, you should be formal. How to communicate engagement. Traditional body language, you lean in with your body as another person is talking. You uncross your arms and legs, smile, nod, and make direct eye contact. With digital body language, you prioritize timely responses, send responses that answer all questions or statements in the previous message, not one or two. Send a simple got it or received it if the message doesn't merit a longer response. And use positive emojis like thumbs up or smiley faces if appropriate. So this thing about emojis, I am not an emoji person. It just shows my age. But if I communicate with someone who's under 40, I have to be ready to emoji with them. That's just the way it is. And that's part of the mirroring. If you're looking to show urgency, traditional body language, you raise your voice, speak quickly, point your finger, or make some other exaggerated gesture. In digital body language, you use all caps paired with direct language or sentences that end with multiple exclamation marks. Opt for a phone call or a meeting over a digital message. Skip greetings, use formal closings. Issue the same message on multiple digital channels simultaneously. The very interesting thing in this book about periods and exclamation points. Someone of my generation would use a text and might put a period at the end of the sentence in a text. For someone under 40, that is rude. Yes, I love it. So again, the mirroring is important. Okay, now we want to go to the different modes of digital communication. Stick with it. I know it's a little thick, but there's a lot of good stuff to consider here. The first thing is you're taught that when you meet someone, you try to ascertain what their primary means of communication is. So I learned pretty quickly as a manager that there are some agents that I will call and call and call, and they never pick up. And I text them, and 2 seconds later, I get a response. I just had an instance this week of the opposite. There's an agent I've been texting and hasn't responded, and I called and he picked up right away. So that's my bad, not his bad. And when we're working with a client or a vendor or another agent on the other side of the deal, those are all things to consider when we're communicating. You know, agents say to me, you know, I've called the listing agent 3 times. And I say, did you text them? And if the answer is no, then bad on you. Because a lot of times when you text them, you get an almost immediate response. So you have to try all 3 mediums if you're not sure. I start with a call, I follow up with a text. If I get no response, I send an email. That's my method of trying to figure out. And then I try to remember when I'm going to communicate with that person again, what should I be doing? Should I be calling first? Should I be texting first? Should I be emailing? And that's why when we have an important announcement or meeting, I always email everybody and then I follow up with a group text. Because I know it's important for everybody to get the message, and everybody doesn't have to communicate the same way. So let's go through the three different sources or methods of communicating in this digital world and talk about some details. So let's start with email. Mirror the culture. If you work in a conservative culture, or you're working with a person who works in a conservative culture, in a more corporate culture, remember to include appropriate formal greetings, closings, and signatures. Okay, the common interpretations of our most used email signature. No signature on your email is the equivalent of awkwardly walking out of a room, leaving everyone wondering if you accidentally hit send. I presume that all of you have a signature on your email. Hopefully it has your contact information, a tagline, and a fair housing notice. If you don't, you should do that before end of business today. It is very important to look professional when you're sending your emails, and that certainly is there. Okay, so as a signature, your name and nothing else. This should only be used when you are very familiar with your recipient, or if you've been communicating back and forth in an email chain for more than 3 or 4 messages. Best is a semi-formal, easy closing. This person wants you to think she is nice and professional. For newer relationships, opt for the more formal, best wishes, best regards. Regards is somewhat outdated. This closing is a little more or less neutral, but it can come across as distant. Love is inappropriate as a closing in an email for the workplace. No matter how close you are to the person, don't do it. Sincerely is a formal closing commonly used by those on a lower rung of the corporate ladder communicating with their boss's boss. If it's not, it's probably a PR person addressing a crisis. If you don't fit into these two categories, using sincerely is too formal, and in fact may make you seem insincere. Talk soon. I like this one for action-oriented emails, or for emails that include some kind of prep work for an upcoming meeting or phone call. It's smart, casual, practical, and friendly, but not too friendly. And the most effective email closing around is thanks in advance. So if you think that when you close your email, what you say at the end is not important, you are completely wrong. Okay, the timing of an email. Email is getting faster. A 2015 study by USC found that 50% of email responses were sent within an hour. For those sent by people ages 20 to 35, that dropped to 16 minutes. People between 35 and 50 typically answered within 24 minutes, and people 50 and older responded roughly 47 minutes later. In the time that that study was published, we are arguably getting faster, lowering response times even further. Okay, text and instant messaging. So whether it's a text message, a Skype message, a Slack message, a Google chat, the level of formality in the workplace decreases. Texting and instant messaging have become increasingly prevalent. So the audience, it's casual. In general, your audience for these channels should be informal. The shorthand, emojis, and exaggerated punctuation used to create tone in text and IMs are generally inappropriate in formal discussions. In a professional setting, try to write in complete sentences, though you don't have to write out every word. Abbreviations are okay. Timing. The channels are meant to be, you guessed it, instant. For the most part, your response is expected within the hour, although most come within 3 minutes or less. If you get a text during the meeting and can't respond immediately, it's a good idea to let the recipients know why they haven't heard from you. But create boundaries. The instantaneous nature of text can be misleading. People often use texts and IMs outside work hours and still expecting a quick response. It's perfectly reasonable to establish boundaries. If it's the first time to respond to an off-hour text with a quick message, tell the sender that you won't be answering until work hours. So that's very important when you're dealing with your vendors, your lawyers, your mortgage people, and also important for your clients. Now, we're real estate, we're 7 days a week. My boundaries are 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. I have a very easy way to set those boundaries. I set my phone off at 9. So you might get me at 8 in the morning, but you're never going to get me at 10 at night. And that's fine as long as everybody understands that's where a thing is. Structure of text. Less structure is better. These are informal channels, meaning there's no reason to include a subject line, formal greeting, or a signature. Text should be 2 or 3 sentences max. If you need more than 2 or 3 sentences, either send an email or pick up the phone. Now, I get all kinds of texts. Most of them are short and brief, and I can answer shortly and briefly. Sometimes it's a short text, but needs a long answer. I'm not going to text back. I am either going to pick up the phone or I'm going to text back that I sent you an email. Because text is not really good for detailed responses and should never be used that way. If you're going beyond what you can see on your screen in the text, text is the wrong medium. Using the right medium for the right message in the right circumstance is absolutely important. Don't bait and switch. If you text an instant message someone with, hey, do you have a minute? But then need an essay-length paragraph to explain what the minute is about, pick up the phone or send an email. Very important. Okay, we get to video meetings and conference calls. So if you're hosting a video meeting, it's very important if there are people that don't know each other to make introductions. Everybody should be identified at the start along with their position. Keep things short and sweet. Most of us are accustomed to face-to-face meetings and conference sessions that last over an hour. In that kind of three-dimensional environment, participants have a full range of stimuli, fewer outside distractions, and a longer attention span. Virtual events leave much more room for distraction and multitasking. A planned structure and ticking clock can help. Okay, raise your hand or use the chat. Really good for most part to be able to contribute to a meeting, but not talk over one another at a meeting. So normally in a meeting, especially like this, you're going to mute yourself until you had a question, and then you're going to either raise your hand or use the chat, and that is very important. Okay, here's a digital styles team exercise. Here's a questions you should be asking yourself to evaluate how to use the information I've given you. And obviously, I've just given you a little piece of what's in this book. What are the best channels for others to digitally communicate with me? What are my digital body language pet peeves? What do I value most when others communicate with me? Clarity, accountability, actions. Am I a digital adapter or a digital native? How does this demographic affect how I perceive daily communications? Is my digital style influenced by previous work cultures or bosses? How does this show up in my communications? List the best examples of positive digital body language I've experienced from others in each of the categories: emails, chat, meetings. List the worst examples of digital body language I have experienced from others in each category: emails, group chat, and meetings. I still go back to the text. Do you want to meet Wednesday or Thursday? And the text comes back, yes. Okay, so very important as a summary, pick the appropriate meeting for the occasion, for the person or people being communicated with. Sometimes it's just easier to pick up the phone. Sometimes an in-person meeting is necessary rather than a digital form of communication. And always mirror your client's style when you're communicating, as long as they're communicating appropriately. Any questions? I usually don't like to go that long with something this thick, but I really do feel that it is very important for us to pick up trends like this. Somebody asked emotional intelligence book. That's Daniel Coleman's book, Emotional Intelligence. Very, very important book for salespeople. If you have not read it, I recommend it entirely. And then the digital body language is Erica Dewan. So if you need any help with either of those, if you would like to have a private session about your reading of those, or if you think that it would be useful to have a group dialogue after reading a chapter or two of these, those are all possibilities. So I'm hoping that I can help you along the way and make you a little bit more effective. This digital communication is not going away, even post-COVID. So it is very important to try to be as clear and appropriate as possible, because if we're not clear, we can really piss people off that we didn't intend to piss off. Okay, I am going to leave it at that, except I want to hear from Quentin about interest rates.
Hey, interest rates did get better over the last couple of weeks. We were last week and a half, let's say. We've been heading towards a significant threshold that would cause us rates to improve further. Yesterday, we got alerts to lock, and it looked like rates were going the other direction. But now that the market is open again, things are getting better again. I mean, rates are already in the twos.
Ridiculous.
Now they're moving. Sorry?
It's ridiculous.
That's a good word. It's moving further into the twos, but yeah, you could lock if you got good credit, standard vanilla transaction, you're in the twos. If you've got mediocre credit and an FHA loan, you're in the twos. Rates are phenomenal. If you know anybody who hasn't refinanced yet and should, tell them to call me. I don't normally do a lot of self promotion here, but I'm going to use this opportunity because the rates are that crazy. And anybody who thought about refinancing, me or whoever they want to talk to, but you should look into it, because the rates are just, we're hitting those historic lows again, and their rates are good. So buy, refinance, get your investment property, do whatever you want to do. Inflation should be driving the rates up, but it's not happening yet. The markets were down earlier, primarily because of the COVID Delta COVID-19 Delta variant, a lot of the people are starting to wonder now that COVID numbers are going back up in July, highest we've seen since May, is this going to drive our economy in the wrong direction again? We shall see.
We
Quick
shall
question.
see. Yeah.
Quick question, Quentin.
Yes,
What-
sir.
What type of percent or point spread should you be looking for on a refinance? So is it like?
That's an excellent question. And the answer is, it is completely dependent upon each person. What I frequently hear people say is, well, it's got to drop 1% for it to make sense. That's a good rule of thumb. However, that's based on a national average. And as you understand, both Nassau and Suffolk are two of the 10 wealthiest counties in the nation. We are a statistical anomaly, which means the numbers are different for us. Our mortgage tax, New York State has, no other state has that. And our purchase price and property values are higher. So if you got $1 million loan and the rates go down 0.25%, it might make sense to refinance. You know, it depends. So the best thing to do is what I do for my clients is I do an analysis. I had a lady recently, she owes like $80,000 on a property in Florida and her rate was 4.25%. And a 2.5% rate didn't make sense to refinance. But I got somebody else where, you know, 3%, 3.25% made sense. They've got 4.5, but they owe 600 grand and they just started the loan. So it depends how far you into the loan, what do you owe? It all comes down to this. This is the true answer. How much are you saving? How long will it take for that savings to cover the cost? And will you be in that property or that mortgage long enough? So if it's going to cost you, just using fake numbers, $10,000 to refinance, and you're going to save $500 a month, well, then you know it's going to be 20 months to break even. If you say, well, I'm going to retire and move in 2 years, then don't do it. Or I'm going to sell this house in 2 years, don't do it. Oh no, we're going to be here till the kids graduate from high school 12 years from now. Oh yeah, then it makes sense. You're going to get your savings back. The cost is going to be offset 6 times. That makes sense. But that's why there's no rule of thumb. I don't care if your mortgage is going down 4%, you're selling the house next month, don't refinance.
Okay, I'm gonna call you
Thank
for
you.
myself, actually.
Okay.
And
Thanks,
I don't know
Quentin.
I don't know if you listened to Patrick Bet David, Quentin, Barry Habib was on it, and it was an amazing interview thing. So if you haven't, everybody should look into that interview. It's amazing.
I listen to Barry Habib every day. He's the man. That dude knows his stuff.
Yeah.
So mortgage applications up or down?
Mortgage applications were down a little bit, but the data we have, as you know, is from a few weeks ago. So the 4th of July weekend figured into that. So that would drop it. People were away and rates were up. Rates went down after the 4th of July. So we'll see. Total purchase applications, they're more being stymied by inventory.
Right.
And of course, the challenge with mortgage applications as trying to measure purchase volume, it's way off this year because we have more cash buyers than ever. And I'm sure all of you are seeing that. So when people say, oh, mortgage applications are down, it doesn't mean that purchases are down. If you know, 3 years ago, what maybe 5% of people were cash buyers in the general market, and now it's 20% are cash buyers.
Right.
Our numbers, they just look different.
Great answer. Thanks very much. I appreciate everybody being here today. And